I've always worked in corporate jobs and just something was always missing. So I had had this idea about being a coach for a very long time, and something was always holding me back with it. But it just got to the point where I was like, there's nothing, like I may as well just try it. So I've told this story a million times, but my partner was Carl. He is a coach, and I was just watching him live this life that I probably wanted to live, and I think seeing him inspired me that if he could do it, I could do it too. So yeah, that's what I was doing before I enrolled in ECA, which I'm still very unsure if I was making the right decision. Loads of reasons. I had worked really hard to get where I was. I did business economics in uni, and my career path was always to be academic, and it seemed like I was probably insane to give that up, and that was the general consensus. You've worked so hard to get where you are, and that was one thing that held me back massively, that I would just risk everything that I had built just to go and be a PT. The other thing was that I was a woman in a very, very male-dominated industry, and I wasn't sure how I could navigate. I've always wanted to have a family, and I wasn't sure how I could navigate both at the same time. And I suppose I always thought my purpose was to be a wife and a mummy, because I didn't have much of my own purpose. Then when I found this, kind of put that on the back burner, but I had this realization that why could I not just do both? Once I get an idea in my head, I want everything to happen immediately. So for me, once I started the course in ECA and I decided, no, I'm going to roll with this, I want to do this, I very much wanted to just leave my job and open a facility there and then. And if you remember, that's what I was very set on doing, and I was viewing facilities, and I didn't have one client to my name, but I thought, I'm going to open a facility. So things didn't work out that way. It didn't work out for me. Everything that I had fell through, which now looking back, I'm like, fuck, thank God that all fell through, because everything kind of happens as and when it's supposed to. But from there, I coached out of another semi-private facility, very short term, kind of as a favour of the guy who owned it, who was just letting me coach there until I found my own space. And then at that point, I did have a bit of a realisation that I probably couldn't go ahead and open a facility straight away, and I was going to have to find somewhere to coach out of, which was kind of quite upsetting for me, because I really wanted to leave my job once I'd made that decision, and I didn't want to do them both at the same time. And I remember one thing you had said, how you do something is how you do anything, and I wasn't invested in my job anymore, and I just felt like I wasn't able to give my all to either. So I knew I had to find a way to start pushing my own coaching business somehow. So something popped up on Instagram one day about a space to rent. It was another semi-private facility, but the coaching hours, my coaching hours actually worked around it very well. So I was only coaching mornings. So it was actually the perfect fit, and I started coaching there, my own clients, building up my own client base. And I know for a long time you had been like, right, you're ready, you can leave your job. But at that point I had decided that I wanted to buy a house, and I was very sure of what I wanted, and I needed the security of my job to be able to do that. So basically stayed in my corporate job, coached as well, did them both at the same time. In my corporate job, I was taking meetings for clients and blocking out my calendar and just trying to do everything to make coaching work. And then I had like a big disruption in my personal life, which made me take a step back from my corporate job, and it actually worked very well now looking back. So at that point, I was able to see that coaching is my purpose. It gave me so much purpose. It was the reason I was able to move through everything that I was going through. And I think even then my family seeing me being able to coach and what I was doing and how much happiness it was able to bring me at that time, it made everyone kind of fall in line behind me and realize that this was the right path for me. So again, I left that job, or no, I stayed at that job for another while, and then as soon as my mortgage came through, then I left it, handed in my notice. I hadn't been there in a while, but I handed in my notice, and then that was me. And I went full-time with coaching. And I suppose it happened so gradually that it didn't feel like a massive step. Then I went full-time with coaching and continued to build up to here. I was very conflicted at the time of the mastermind because I wasn't sure what direction I wanted my business to go in. I had started working online to try and continue to grow my business because I didn't have the physical capacity to take on anyone else with the hours that I had, because it was quite a limited time frame for me to work in. So I took on girls online, and I really enjoyed that too. So for me, I was like, do I go all in online here, or do I go all in person? And I suppose, again, just at the perfect time, the summit was on. So I'd had a couple of conversations there, and actually had a conversation with Phil, who said, you are an in-person coach. And that really struck home with me, because I was like, you're right, I am an in-person coach, and I do well with people in person. So at that point, I decided to go all in on my dream of the facility, but I knew I couldn't do it on my own because there was so much things that I was going to come up against. So I signed up then to the mastermind. Honestly, money, it's a massive investment, and I wasn't really sure if I would see the return. Plus my business, I was only starting to go full time, and I had just left my job not that long before, so I knew it was going to be quite a big expense. So that was definitely the one thing that I was skeptical about. I've worked with you so much, so I wasn't skeptical about you or what you were going to provide or how much support I was going to get. It was more so, will this be worth it financially? I think the biggest takeaway is me learning that you always need a mentor. That's probably the biggest thing. You can't do this on your own. I think you sometimes think, oh, this is easy. It's not. And the biggest thing I've kind of noticed is to have someone to go and ask those questions to, and then I don't make the mistakes that I could have made. So you've made all the mistakes for us in a sense that we don't have to make them, and you know what way to then run your business. And I think you always need someone to learn from who has done what you have done successfully to allow you to be successful. I have an incredible team of people around me, yet I am the only person who runs my business. But I have so many people around me. I have such a good support network that it's took away a lot of the stress for me. Like for the physical building, my dad and my brother looked after that. I don't know how I would have manage that with anyone else. Even in terms of time frames, people talk about getting a painter and it's going to take 6 months, and my daddy phoned someone and there's someone in here the next day, which is mental. So to have someone to take that stress away has been insane. To have you taking away the stress of how is this going to work? What do I do? My thing was the first conversation we had once I had secured the facility. What do I do now? What's my focus? Being a business owner, you have so many different things that you can focus on and get distracted by, but it's where does my energy need to be right now? And I think you steered me in the perfect direction of what I need to do and how I need to do it. So I think having the right people around me has kind of helped eliminate the stress a bit. A good bit. It wasn't that stressful, to be honest. I try not to feel the feeling as much because I know it'll overwhelm me. I said before we had this conversation, I've just been taking things very much a day at a time and putting one foot in front of the other, because I think when you start thinking, oh my God, this is a facility and it's mine, and I know that I get quite overwhelmed easily. So when I think about things and what does this mean, it can really make me panic a bit. And I think that's again why you've been great for me, because you know how I work and you know how to kind of navigate that for me. So I've probably not properly stepped back and felt all those feelings, because I'd probably just cry. Crying's my response to everything, so. They can expect everything that they have not received somewhere else is really what they can expect. They can expect to be treated with respect when they walk through the doors. They can expect that they will not be let down. Females are so often let down in the fitness industry, and Empowered is here to make sure that does not happen. There is no one here who is going to try to touch for them, which is great to come into a place where someone isn't messaging you after you leave your session. They're going to be met with care and kindness, and they're going to be dealt with in terms of how the complex of the female physiology and how it's so different from males physically, but also emotionally. And that's what they can expect from here. And above all, a safe and comfortable space for them to train and grow and learn.